In this, I'm going to talk a little bit about some basics in responding to literature. When we're responding, we will have an initial kind of immediate response to a piece of literature, whether it's good, whether it's bad, we liked it or not. That's just a beginning point. We also can open things up with sort of starting with a question, maybe a question in the textbook itself or a question that you have. Thinking about very broadly what something is about. What is that poem about? What is that story about? There might be something like a description. But that's only a beginning point, right? What we really want to do is to dig deeper and explore the text itself. Text is central to what we do in literature because it is basically our data. We have nothing else beyond the text. When we think about this, we want to think about two ways words make meaning. One is the denotation of words, the other is the connotation of words. Denotation is a dictionary definition. Connotation is the emotional sort of import the word has. We could go through a list of different words that we use to describe a car, and all of them would be things that have meaning to them based on sort of what significance we attach to those words. So both sort of proper names for cars, right? Car. You also want to be aware. What's really, really important, especially with poetry, but even with longer works, is that reading literature well, and making plausible, persuasive arguments about it, plausible, persuasive, convincing interpretations of it, is that it needs to be read multiple times. Poetry, very easy to do so, but when you're writing about the literature, even short stories or plays, you have to go back and you have to look again and go back and read more than once. Those of us who teach this and have been teaching literature for a long time reread things and find new things over and over and over again. So what do we look for? One of the things we want to look for is particularly vivid language. What sticks out? Where are particularly evocative words used? That's where that connotation comes in. We pay attention to those things. We want to sort of begin to. We want to think about imagery as well. Imagery is simply anything that appeals to the five senses. Most often this will be visual, so describing how something looks, but we'll also run into things that deal with smell or sound, taste even, or how things feel. Pay attention to those things. Authors use those very carefully and very deliberately, particularly in poetry. Imagery is very important, but in any work it is significant. Pay attention too to the idea of repetition. If an image gets used over and over again, or in a poem a word gets used more than once, it's drawing attention to itself. We want to pay attention to why that is, and what does it do to make meaning. Another thing we can pay attention to, and it may seem odd to you, is punctuation. But this is important. This is something that really can create and change meaning when we are reading, especially in poetry, but again, even in any of the other three genres. We want to pay attention to where are line breaks, where are commas, where are end stops, so punctuation marks like a period or a colon. Those marks that are pauses instead. These are important to attend to. So these are small things we can begin to look at.